Good afternoon, all of my creative entrepreneurs. If you are looking for a little motivation heading on into the new year and wanting to stick to the resolutions and things that you have made for yourself, I want to give you a better way of looking at that moving forward. So you come to the right video. I just wanted to leave a quick message and just talk about personal covenants. And covenants are not contracts. Contracts are based on a mutual distrust between two persons or two businesses, while a covenant is based on a mutual love and trust between two persons. And think about how valuable a covenant is when you honor it, right? The whole idea is that you would rather die in honor than live in dishonor. And that's the whole idea of having a personal covenant with yourself. And I wanted to actually make this video because I've just done that with myself. And I can, document this. This is basically story time for me. I was in a situation where I had sustained an injury. And prior to that, I had invested in a job opportunity. Well, it turns out that six-figure job opportunity was an actual scam, but the $1,500 and hours of time invested was not in vain. I did learn a great deal because I went deeper than the teaching that the program offered. And I was actually able to get great answers because I began asking better questions. So I did utilize my time wisely, even though it didn't turn out the way I wanted. The whole point being I was going to be working remotely while healing from the work-related injury. That didn't work out, but what it did was it added a little pressure, I must admit, but it forced me to accelerate into my business because I was going to use the six-figure income to invest in my business and to accelerate it. Well, I had to figure out a way to bootstrap it from the position that I currently now have and have had at Amazon. So the blessing in that opportunity was for me to figure it out. So I made a covenant with myself. I did take the time off. It was short-term disability, 5 months, and then physical therapy to kind of get the tendons in my feet a lot stronger. That worked. I did have forearm crutches that I was able to use at the facility as I worked. We have a big facility at Amazon, the building that we're at. And, of course, it takes a lot of steps. So you're literally walking a lot of miles a day, even though most of the work is stationary. But there's some movement involved. So when I didn't have to carry anything and I just had to go to the bathroom break, I would use the forearm crutches to reduce the number of steps. Well, anyway, peak season had came up, which means we have a lot of mandatory overtime, and we had to do 4 60-hour weeks. And I made a covenant with myself to stick to that because I wanted to observe the easy hard principle and do the hard thing right up front because I knew that I didn't have the credit and I didn't have the cash reserves, right? I'm literally like paycheck to paycheck, even though I'm living below my means and I'm using my discretionary time and income wisely to invest in assets that can generate revenue, job eventually. Things are still tight, right? So I did the 4 60-hour weeks and I completed, even with the minor pain. I pushed through by the grace of God and got it done. But I pushed through and I made that covenant with myself because I wanted to observe the easy hard principle because I knew if I did this hard thing up front now that I could have a lot easier on the back end and I wouldn't have to put my body through this sort of stress again. So I made a lot of really good decisions, took all of my discretionary income that I made in overtime and invested it wisely for my business, for my family's future. And I just want to tell you that making a covenant with yourself will increase your confidence because, like I said, you'll be willing to die in honor than to live in dishonor. And what it's going to do is going to increase your confidence. You're going to be able to trust yourself moving forward. And it could be little covenants like, say, for example, I had to get up at 3 a.m. in order to catch a particular bus to get hours ahead. Because when I was exhausted after working a 60-hour week, I was tempted to use the subway and I would, catch the bus, one bus downtown to head to work. But if I was to do this the 6 a.m. subway in order to do that, which is a quick where I'm not that far from downtown, it would have brought me closer to the time I needed to clock in, right? Now, in that case, if the bus driver was late, that would make me a little late, and that was a little risky. So even though I was tired and exhausted, after being a couple minutes late a couple times, and I had to actually put those minutes back to get my full 60 hours, I said, I'm never going to do it again. So I made the covenant to get up at 3 a.m. every morning so I can get the early bus to get me downtown so I can get to work hours ahead. And I made that covenant and I stuck to it. And I was dealing with that pain daily. I stuck to it and kept covenant with myself, and it made me confident. And here's the thing that was funny, and not to put anybody down, but of most of the Amazonians at the facility that I worked, I was one of the few that actually worked every second of all of the 4 60-hour work weeks. And that made me feel good that I was able to keep my covenant and actually meet my obligations and meet my objectives, right? Because it wasn't just for me, it's for my families and to be a blessing to future families as well. Anyway, I wanted that message for you guys to start making covenants with yourself. I don't care if it's getting up earlier so you can get in that workout. If you begin to do that and keep those covenants, it will build your confidence, and it will show and exude, and people will notice it, and you'll have a lot more influence, right? And it'll carry through in your leadership. So I hope this video was a blessing. I hope you guys have a wonderful holiday and New Year.